Hi, Dad! Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weary Lore. Today, we're going to dive into another Halloween video, one from the archives of the subreddit Let's Not Meet. Let's Not Meet is a fascinating subreddit with a myriad of stories about people meeting other people they would have rather not met. These stories can range from uncomfortable to downright terrifying. As we do with No Sleep, we suspend our disbelief and accept all stories on this subreddit as real. I will give my opinion on these stories, but I will not be debating their validity. Let's Not Meet boasts an impressive amount of members, 1.2 million at the time of this video. Along with this impressive amount of members comes an impressive amount of stories. Pages upon pages upon pages of tales to tickle that spooky part of your brain. It seems like you could scroll nearly infinitely. From these pages, I have searched out 3 Halloween Let's Not Meet stories that I am sure you will find as interesting as I did. I will not be telling these stories verbatim. I will be condensing them in my own words with some quotes for dramatic effect. I encourage you to go read the stories themselves in their entirety. Show their original poster some love. All links will be in the description below. So let's start the first story. The most eventful Halloween. For this story, we are going all the way back to October of 2003. In the setup of this story, the OP explains that they are going trick-or-treating with a group of their friends. They are all in 6th grade, so around 10 years old. As Halloween was on a Friday, the kids were very excited as they could trick-or-treat as long as they wanted without having to worry about school the next day. The OP explains their route, pretty much a big circle, and then they were on their way. The group of about 12 kids, this is how the OP described it, not me. I can't tell you the exact number of kids, went from house to house gathering candy, seemingly enjoying Halloween in only the way that children can. That was until they came upon the fateful house. Upon first look, there was nothing special about this house in comparison to the other houses they had visited. It had a garage, a front lawn, 2 stories. It was completely normal. Except it had a very lifelike Michael Myers statue on the front lawn. As kids will be kids, they approached the statue. It stood still, hunched over and holding a knife. Quite the Halloween decorations, right? So, either being brave or being a brat, one of the kids decided it would be a good idea to kick it in the shin. It was not a statue. After being kicked in the shin, the man jumped forward and held his shin. Very normal reaction, if I say so myself. But what he said next? Not so normal. The kids were terrified when the man muttered,
I'm gonna fucking kill you.
At this point, I would have gone home. Adult or child, I don't take threats idly. These kids did. They brushed it off and went on their way. At this point, the OP skips forward in the night to a very coincidental conversation. As the kids are talking about slasher movies and the science behind them, one of the kids drops their candy. Obviously, they all stopped to wait for him. It was then that they turned around and saw that they were being followed. Behind them, the man in the Michael Myers costume was stalking them, still holding the knife and moving menacingly forward, completely alone on the dark road. That was when the kids finally took him seriously. They took off as fast as their 10-year-old legs could carry them, running from the man with the knife, who quickened his pace and began to run behind them. Luck seemed to favor them, however, and at the end of the road was a minivan, driven by the mother of one of the kids. They were safe. It was only after the fact that the OP learned from a couple of their friends that the man did not just return home. He continued to roam the streets with the knife after everyone else was gone. This experience terrified the OP so much that they have not left their house during Halloween since. I must agree, that is one person that I would rather not meet. But this might just be the case of an adult taking a prank too far. I'm talking from personal experience here. Real quick, just let me share my little Halloween horror with you. Let's set the scene. It's late at night on Halloween. I'm out of my godparents' house, surrounded on all four sides by cornfield, with a single road running through it. It's a cold, dreary Halloween night, one where collecting candy was irrelevant. All I wanted to do was go back home and get out of my damp, chilly costume. But then there was a van coming down the road behind us. As my godsister and I watched, my godfather, her father, came out to the end of the driveway to meet us. But we would never get to meet him. We were still a good 500 feet away when the van suddenly stopped, braked screaming from the force, and threw open its back door. A big, burly, masked man jumped out of the inky black darkness. It all happened so fast, we couldn't do anything. One moment he was there, and the next he'd been taken, thrown into the back of the van, tires squealing as the driver peeled away, the back door still open and his feet hanging out. I could hear my godsister beside me screaming, "Daddy! My daddy!" But I was in shock. I was a kid, no older than 10 myself. What was I supposed to do? As the van disappeared down the road, our mothers ran out of the house and down the driveway, bundling us back into the house as my godsister kept crying out incoherently. Do you see where this story is going? I don't know how much time passed. Time is a strange concept as a kid. But eventually, the ruse was up. There was laughter guffawing from outside, and then in walked my father and my godfather. See, it had been a prank. My father, with the help of someone else, I can't remember who the driver was, had kidnapped my godfather as a prank. It was very effective. I can look back on it and laugh. The screams of my godsister, "My daddy! My daddy!" But at the time, it might have been a little far. The same could have happened with the OP story, but we'll never know, and that's what makes it spooky. On to the next story. A true story of trick-or-treating terror. This story is short and not sweet. You'll see what I mean. The OP starts by explaining their relationship with a friend they went trick-or-treating with. I don't believe I can say it any better myself, so here's their description.
She was dumber than a bag of hammers and annoyed me most of the time. But she and I were both outcasts, so we kind of had no choice but to befriend each other. Katie was always doing things that were marvels of stupidity. I'm honestly amazed that she made it to adulthood, given how little regard she had for her own safety or other people's. She also lied all the time. The poor child was a real piece of work.
Sounds like quite the person. Wonder where she is in life now. But that's not what we're here for. The story. When OP and their friend were around 10 years old, they were allowed to go trick-or-treating on their own, as long as they were home by 9 p.m. That sounds reasonable. As with our first story, everything was going very normally until they came upon a house that just had one little thing off about it. This house didn't have any Halloween decorations. Just the front porch light was on. But that means there was candy, right? When the two children rang the doorbell, a man in his 50s opened the door. He seemed to look for something before saying,
Why don't the two of you come inside and show me a few tricks, and then we'll see about those treats.
Well, OP was smart enough to know that this was a no-go situation, but Katie was not. With the patience and perseverance of a saint, OP grabbed the other child before she could get too far into the house and drug her away, calling the old man a creep as they walked away from his home. But Katie was a piece of work. She protested, saying that she thought the man had good candy, and going on to claim that she knew him and he was a personal friend of the family. even though they were in the OP's neighborhood and not hers. Eventually, OP challenged Katie, asking her the man's name. She should know his name if she knew him. But she didn't. That was the end. OP did not go trick-or-treating with Katie again. They didn't want to be responsible for saving her from whatever lied beyond that door. This story. Ugh. We could talk about make-believe, the supernatural, ghosts, and demons, but nothing is scarier than real life. Just what did that man want to do with 2 children? Was there any way it was innocent, just wanting to give them candy after enjoying their company? I think you know my opinion. Here we are, the last story, and this one comes with its own pictures. The worst Halloween hide-and-seek ever. Now, this story is long. I'm going to try to condense it for you, without losing any of the impact or important spooky bit. There are some repeated phrases because the OP was clearly freaking out. It's these bits that I will be cutting out. Nothing important. As with all our stories, this story occurs on Halloween, but not late at night. No, this story starts at 6:30 p.m., barely after the sun had dipped below the horizon. The OP and their husband own an antique business. This antique business is in what the OP describes as a big, old, bizarre barn of a building. They are not the only ones that inhabit this bizarre barn. There are multiple other tenants, notably a restaurant. There were no signs of anything wrong when OP and their husband left their business around 5 p.m. They headed across town for dinner, and their nightmare started at 6:30. It was then that their security monitoring company called them to let them know that there had been motion detected on the lower level of their business. And it wasn't a one-off. They received a second call right after the first. As any other business owner would, they quickly left their dinner and headed for the building. At this point, OP assumed it was nothing, maybe a bird or a rat or a cat, some sort of wildlife that had gotten into the building and kept setting off the motion detector. OP would repeat this like a mantra as they began the investigation of the building. Nothing seemed amiss. They opened doors, made noise, walked through the building like they were completely safe, until they found something terrifying. A burglary kit sitting in the middle of the floor. They were not safe. Fight or flight is an interesting phenomenon. There's a third option to it, one that more people experience than you may know. Freeze. That is what OP did. A lot of thoughts went through their mind. First and foremost, there were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no jimmied open doors. That meant one thing. They were still there. OP couldn't move. OP couldn't even scream. They described it like this.
I literally couldn't scream, just like in those stupid goddamn dreams. My voice stuck.
What an absolute nightmare. It wasn't until their husband appeared that they could finally move, that they bolted out of the building and called 911. When the police arrived, their story was met with limited gusto. A crowbar and a fire extinguisher did not impress them. Then they saw the security footage. The man that was revealed was terrifying. The face of OP's new sleep paralysis demon. As they reviewed the security footage, they started to put together a timeline and got an idea of where the man may still be. The man had hidden, crouched on a landing behind a bookcase while they had closed up shop. He had stayed there until everyone left and then calmly headed for the men's restroom. The security system did not pick up on him there because it wasn't set up to motion detect there. It wasn't until later, when he stacked a few solid-bodied vintage suitcases in front of an iron gate and hopped over it, that he was caught. What he did was strange. He ran down the hallway, looping around the floor. He used the ladder to hop back over the gate. Then he used the suitcases to jump back over the gate, and rinse and repeat. When he, assumedly, got tired of this, he went to the basement, worming his way through a 15-inch gap over yet another iron gate, and then stared at the camera. Then he repeated it again, over and over, moving very fast as he did so, like he was using the closed door for parkour practice. It was only after all this exercise that he decided to steal something. He used a crowbar to open one of their lockboxes and stole a handful of keys for their display cabinets. Now, we're back at when OP and their husband entered the shop. The security camera shows the intruder ditching the keys and hiding in the dark, watching OP. When OP and their husband fled to call the police, the intruder ran to the basement. It was there that there was an entrance to a dirt tunnel that circled the perimeter of the building. It was there that the intruder fled. Y'all, the description of this dirt tunnel might be more disturbing than the intruder. Here's a few choice words from OP. They say,
Spiders the size of dinner plates live there. It's muddy and dark. Petrifying.
nope, no thank you. If that tunnel was under my building, the spiders could have it. There's a spider about this big in my backyard, building a web by my spotlight. I'm about to give it the house, okay? Spiders the size of dinner plates? No thank you. I'm not the only one who thinks that way. The police officers only made it about halfway down the tunnel, having made the OP's husband lead the way, before noping out of there themselves. But what's most strange? There's no evidence that the man ever left the tunnel. The other end does have an exit hatch that leads directly into a very busy restaurant kitchen. Sure, he could have gotten out, but he would have had to walk past all the line cooks into the restaurant, which, yep, has cameras, and then out the door without being noticed. After being in a spider-infested muddy tunnel. Yeah, and he couldn't have left any tracks, either. They did check. There was no evidence that he came out that way. And he certainly didn't come back out into the shop, especially after both ends of the tunnel were boarded up solidly. Could he still be down there? Well, there were no strange smells, even after having to unboard the tunnel due to a water main issue recently. If he's not there, where did he go? Was he ever actually there to begin with? Antique stores, well, we've all heard stories of what can happen there. But the OP did leave us with a final statement.
I have vowed I will use his skull in this year's Halloween display if he's dead down there.
I don't think I can say anything better myself. I hope you all enjoyed these stories. Be sure to go read the originals in their entirety and do whatever you do on Reddit to show appreciation. Let's Not Meet is a fascinating subreddit, and I hope to delve deeper into it someday. If you like this video, please show me some appreciation with a like, a comment, and a subscribe. I will be bringing you spooky and scary all year long, so if you enjoy that, be sure to stick around. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.